times. It's like a genie in the bottle. Okay, first and foremost, y'all know what's coming up here if you've been here, if you're a regular. So I'm going to ask you all to please silence your cell phones. I've heard that there are tomatoes in the audience for Tony, but if I hear a cell phone go off, feel free to throw your tomatoes at whoever didn't turn off their cell phone. All right, next week at Lunch with Books, Tuesday, November 16th at noon. It's the next installment of the Wheeling Poetry Series. We're gonna have Joseph, I did this last week. Joseph Bathanti, he's the former poet laureate of North Carolina, and Joel Peckham, he's the associate professor of the regional literature and creative writing at Marshall University. They're both gonna be here. This is hosted by Mark Harshman, who is West Virginia's poet laureate. So that's next week, Tuesday, November 16th at noon. We'll have some good poetry readings and some good discussions. So in 2 weeks, that's 2 Tuesdays from today, November 23rd at noon. This is our big program of the year here. Best-selling author Silas House is going to be with us. His most recent novel, Southernmost, was a long-listed finalist for the Carnegie Medal of Excellence in Fiction, and appeared on several best of 2018 best-selling lists. He's the recipient of 3 honorary doctorates, the winner of the Nautilus Award, an E.B. White Award, the Appalachian Book of the Year Award, the Storylines Prize, and many other honors, including an invitation to read at the Library of Congress, and now an invitation to read at the Ohio County Public Library. The biggest honor of all. So Sean worked very hard to get him here. This is going to be a big program. Tell all of your people, all of your friends about it. Read his books; they're excellent. It's supported by a West Virginia Humanities grant, so we're very lucky to get him to come here this year. So we're hoping for a good turnout for that. That's November 23rd at noon. And then before we get introduced to today's guests, I just want to remind everybody that our next People's University starts December 2nd. It'll be an 8-week series on the Cold War. Our first speaker will be Gary Capel. That's December 2nd here in the auditorium. We'll also be live streaming these programs 6:30 p.m. So it starts December 2nd and ends January 20th. Okay. Today's guest is Tony Paree. Tony spent 45 years working at Crone's men's store in Wheeling and became a passionate collector of Wheeling memorabilia. It's easy for everybody to say except for me. He is the author of Victorian trade cards of Wheeling, West Virginia, and most recently Real Photo Postcards, which he has for sale today for $29.95 with $10 going to the library. So feel free to come up and purchase a book after the program. Everybody, please welcome Tony Paree.
Good afternoon, everyone. Give me a couple seconds to get loose. All right. I started off by asking you a question. Have you ever seen an item that you really wanted, but you did not buy? Well, that's how my story of my collection started. I went to the Meadowlands prior to becoming a casino once a month at the end of the month. And while I was there, a gentleman showed me a real photo postcard. Now, on this postcard was a horse and wagon, delivery wagon. I can remember it distinctly, a gentleman with a barrel chest and a bar-handled mustache. Next to him was a pit bull with a barrel chest. But what caught my eye on the side of the wagon, Schmoolbach Brewery. To this day, I think about that card. He asked $100 for it. That's a heck of a lot of money. So I turned him down, and this is before emails. I never thought to get his phone number. The next month, I rushed out there because it's only once a month. He said he sold it for $250. Wow. Today, that card, Real Photo Postcard, Schmoolbach Brewery, is $500. So I'm going to talk about Real Photo Postcards. And before I do, I want to talk about what's behind me. First, there was carte de visite in photography. Then cabinet cards came out. They were basically 4x6, It was a real photograph taken, okay, real photograph taken by a photographer. The size was 4x6 because it sat on the cabinet right across there. Previously, if you wanted a photograph, you went to a professional photographer and you made an appointment. You never see these people smile in these photographs. This was serious business. Then they came out with something creative called a Brownie Camera. Now this is a later version. This is sold for $225. Now $1 then was equivalent, to $31. So basically, you think that was cheap, but it was $1. In that first year, I'm going to make sure I get the minutes right. They shipped 150 million of them. Guess what? The next year was obsolete. They came out with a $2 version where you could take the real photo postcards. So this gave you an opportunity to take a picture of something you really enjoyed. Your family, the flood outside your door, your first vehicle. You did not have to go to a professional photographer. So this is where my story starts, if I can figure this out. There you go. Now I'm showing you this camera for one reason. It's not a Brownie camera. That camera cost $20, came out in 1909, and sold for 20 bucks. If $1 was equivalent today to $31, that's a $600 camera. Needless to say, hello, this is what they bought.
Excuse me, just speak up just a little bit, or speak closer to the microphone.
Can I speak a little louder?
Yes, please, just
All right.
talk into the, really looking your pictures, talk into the mic.
Aaron, I need you. I do admit I have a low voice. Okay. All right, thank you. I'll take the glasses off. That'll probably look better anyhow. All right, so what you're looking at is what a real photo postcard can do. The card behind me is the very first delivery wagon in Wheeling, West Virginia. It was owned by John Welty, a grocery, and he was located at 1036, 1038 Market Street. This same company became Welty Buick. All right, when you look at this car, you'll notice the driver and the salesman. On the front, in fine print, says Graham. That was made in Lima, Ohio. The engine, I believe, was underneath the gentleman sitting. The dash was over the radiator. When you look at this, it's pretty amazing. You got a roof, tarps, rubber wheels, and if you look to the back, oh, I have to use this. My daughter gave it to me. If I can use it. The axle there, it's an amazing axle. Okay. If it was not for real photo postcards, these two images would never be here. On the top, on the bottom, you can see, I think I can't do this well, would be Landon Flores. At the top, you see 1865, probably when it was created, 1908. In the middle, I believe, is the German Imperial Eagle. I think this is so fancy because I believe it was a German festive that day. It could have been a Cyberfest, but it's a great capture of the store in Wheeling, and it was located 1157 Market Street. Can you hear me okay back here now?
Yeah, you can get closer to the mic.
Hello?
Yes, that's better.
All right. It scares the hell out of me. All right. On the bottom is Ohio. Okay, is United Dairy. Now, you're looking at this, we all know Martins Ferry, United Dairy, but this was before the horseless carriage. You had to have horse and wagon to make deliveries. You are looking at their delivery vehicle right there. If you look close, there's milk cartons in the middle. Now, they were located at 17th Street and Alley G. I'll give you a little history. On November 22nd, 1924, there were two separate fires reported there within 12 hours. The local fire department saved 16 horses. There was a loss of $100,000. This photo postcard was 42 14th Street, McCoy. So this is kind of like a book of memories. Now, speaking of memories, I got to tell you what happened to me last week. Okay? My wife and I were in a local pharmacy or Rite Aid type store. When I was walking back, what caught my eye was a display of that pill for memories. So I picked it up, and I was kind of surprised at the price. I said, I'm getting close, but not quite. So I put it back. About 2 weeks later, my wife, just to make conversation, I said to the gentleman, what do you think about that pill for memory? He says, Tony, I've been taking it. You do? It's about 3 years. I said, does it work? He says, I think it helped me. And I said, Bob, what's the name of that pill? He said, I don't remember. True story. I'm not going to use this because when I turn around, I block the picture. All right, moving on. Now, I lived in East Wheeling as a child, and I passed this house every day when we walked to church, etc. Now, I don't know if you can see it back here, but it says the Woman Hospital, and it was located at 85th Street. There's a woman's name named Harriet B. Jones. I knew nothing about her. She was the first woman licensed physician in our state. After attending Wheeling Female College, she went on to graduate from the Women's Medical College of Baltimore and continued her studies in Chicago, Philadelphia, etc. In 1885, she started private medical practice in Wheeling. She left to go to the State Hospital in Weston, also known as the Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Hospital Asylum. She returned to Wheeling in 1888. She started the Women's Hospital in 1892. She was in operation for 20 years, closed it. In 1924, she became a member of the West Virginia House of Delegates representing Marshall County, and she held that for 2 terms. An amazing woman. That building's still standing. When I was a kid, I think it was Dr. Papura that lived in there. All right, when you look at this card, obviously it's a factory. It says Glenova, West Virginia. Warwood consisted of 3 parts. Loveland, Warwood, and at the very end, Glenova. Rare postcard with Glenova, West Virginia. What's interesting about this, Wheeling had a lot of entrepreneurs who knew how to make money. Now what you're looking at is a West Virginia bridge and construction company. You can see it on the top of the building. This was built in 1900, finished in 1902. This was actually created by the Wheeling Board of Directors. Now, the incorporators, listen to these names if you know Wheeling history. C.R. Hubbard, president of Wheeling Steel and Iron Company, George Lockton of the Lockton Nail Company, W.E. Stones of Stone and Thomas, Wilson, Brown, Holloway, etc. Now, this company did not last that long. In a publication of Iron Age dated September 28, 1911, states that the property of the West Virginia Bridge and Construction Company will be offered as a receiver at October 7 at the Wheeling Courthouse. Now, from that article, we knew it was in business from 1902 to 1911. For me, when I get a postcard, I look at the postcard and I want to know more about it, especially on a real photo postcard. My wife will go, "Are you on the computer again?" Now you know what I'm doing. All right. This scene, people don't realize it, but when you come down Main Street, there's a lower street called Water Street. And Pennsylvania train station was there. And I think now there's just a little piece of it, and across is a playground for the kids. Thank you. Appreciate that. Now, this is one of my favorite postcards. This is from the flood of 1907. The river rose so rapidly that these trains had no time to move. And here they are frozen in time, thanks to the real photo postcard. Oh, okay, when you look at the top photo card, this is from the semi-centennial of West Virginia, held in Wheeling on June 1913. With the centennial, the B&O decided to have a train exhibit. They started with the original trains, and they went up to the trains of 1913. And they all gathered here, where you're sitting now, as part of the Hempfield train station. This library was built on it. Okay? The trains, when it came time for the state celebration that night, every one of them blew their whistles. All of them. It was an amazing sight. 5,000 people came out to see that, believe it or not. Now, the next photo, I want to go back 1 second. The train on the bottom was called the Atlantic. The nickname was Grasshopper. To me, it looks like one of those pump vehicles, stationary vehicles. And if you look to the back, you can actually see where they got the water for the steam for this vehicle. Now, I want you to look how small it is. You got 2 children on it. Now we're talking 1913. And you're now looking at this monster. Nope, not that one. 1 second, I'll get to it. There it is, that monster. That was called the mallet. Now, you went from that little cart to this size. Evolution. It's constantly changing. Things change. That change created this 100 feet long train, weighed 300 tons, excuse me. And this powerful type of locomotive was built for crossing the mountainous travel terrain of West Virginia. They had to build it in such a way that when it took a curve, the boilers would rock from side to side for stability. That's a beautiful illusion there. This is one of my favorite postcards. Now, being from East Wheeling originally, when I looked at this card, I said it had to be 17th Street. I bought it on eBay because the photographer was Mr. McCoy on 12th Street. Now, when I looked at it, what caught my eye was Herbert Chocolate Company, left-hand side. Anytime you can get any tip on identification, it's nice to have. So I came down here to the Wheeling room to research it. Well, when I came down, it said they were located at 1212 Main Street. That doesn't make sense. This is 17th Street. So I kept on researching, in the 1908-1909 directory, they were now located at 169 17th Street. So to me, that's just a great, great picture. Streetcars, trolleys. There's a few people that like me to remember these things. You know, I remember them. What you're looking at here is a tremendous real photo postcard. This was the route from Wheeling to Warwick. And that postcard shows the conductor and the driver. Now, I won't go into how the streetcars were formed. I have it all in the book, so I'm just going to pass on that. Okay, the next one shows another streetcar, electric, from Wheeling. The first streetcar to Wheeling were 4 strong. That's how people moved from one point to the other. Now this one here, wooden rails, I think, were laid around 1886. Now at that time, a 4-mile trip between 1st Street and 42nd Street took an hour and cost 6 cents. Okay? This was in 1866. Wheeling was the 3rd city that had electricity, believe it or not. The first electric lines were put up in 1888, and by 1902, the city had all electric lines. Now, this trip to Wheeling is vehicle number 175. When I look at this postcard, what is amazing to me is this group of people in front. I don't know about you, but I think they can take care of themselves within these expressions. You know? Not a group I want to fool around with. All right, this top postcard, when I first saw it, confused me. It said 90 new members since Sunday's meeting. Watch us grow. Buckley's Emmy Church Edward, which is out the Pike. What did that mean? You know, it took me a while to figure that out. What they were talking about was Billy Sunday, the evangelist Billy Sunday, who actually was the Billy Graham of his day. Now, he was known as a baseball player. He was exceptionally fast. And when he first started his career, he even played here in Wheeling on the island. Later, he became a famous evangelist, very animated. He would jump on top of the counter. He was scared the hell out of people. I mean, he was. Now, when he came to Wheeling, the citizens of Wheeling built him a tabernacle, a large tabernacle. Now, every place that he visited, they had to do that for him. And it took 4 days to make. That was in 1914. He preached 3 sermons a day for 6 weeks. That's amazing. When he left town, that building was demolished. Now, to get back to that top card, obviously he had converted so many people, they were looking for a church out the Pike. And they went to Emmy Church in Edwards, 91 new members. Wheeling Island is normally 10,500 feet long, 2,265 feet wide. And here is a postcard of the island from 1907. And this just gives you an idea of what floods did. So I think that card's pretty much self-explanatory. Now check this out. This is from the parade for the Alps in 1913. They put a monster parade together. They had 15 marching bands, and they marched down the streets of Wheeling A guy named Stifel was the chief marshal. Now, when I looked at that picture, I got 3 or 4 of those in the books. I was curious what they wore, so I had to look it up. The suits were flannel, white flannel. The hat was felt. The shoes were white, but this is a cool group. Their socks were purple. The tie was purple. So it was pretty impressive, I think. I just like looking at the way the people dressed. Everybody dressed. And if you'll notice, everybody had a hat. And sometimes when you look at a photograph, you see, but you don't see. When you look at this one, your eyes are attracted to the battleship. The cannons in the middle, young girls, as cute as all hell in the center. Then when you look a second time, you notice the flags. Then if you look towards the back, that would be Fort Henry Club at 14th Street. Now, take another look. You see 2 groups of children separated, the costumes of the people, streetcar tracks. When you look in the back of the float, I just noticed there's a band in the back of the float. You can see a trombone barely sticking out. So what I'm saying to you is, when you really look at a car, there's a lot going on sometimes. And I want to make sure I'm not too long. This is a kind of a nice card. You're looking at Main and Market Street together, same time. The top one is Market and the bottom one is Main. This is from 1911, before a Night of Temple parade. Look at our beautiful city then. Wall-to-wall businesses. You get to feel that this was the place to be. It really was. Now we talk about disasters. The largest fire ever in the city of Wheeling was the House of Herman fire. That was a department store that, if I can recall, they weren't afraid to be open till 8 o'clock every night. They were one of the first truly active stores. What's beautiful about this card, you have a first-hand account written by the person who took the picture. And on the back it says the House of Herman fire took place on Sunday evening at 5:45, December 9th, 1917. It was the largest fire in the history of Wheeling. $300,000 damage. Actually, the figure is probably over 500,000 because Wheeling Register, the West Virginia Printing Company were all affected. So it's a higher figure. Now, you look close at that picture, you'll notice the demolished fire truck. The roof caved in from the intense heat. On that particular day, with sub-freezing temperature, the water created so much ice, it was frozen the hoses to the ground where it laid. The fire truck collapsed under the weight of the bridge. Another disaster. That is the Wheeling Traction Company. A fire accidentally started there. A total of 29 trolleys were demolished. The damage was over 300,000. Both the horse-drawn steam pumps and the newer modern motor pumps were used to tackle the fire. Later, the city council quickly introduced a municipal bond to fund the modern rehabilitation of the fire department. When I look at this picture, there's always humor in somewhere. I like the guy in the middle saluting the photographer. There's also a lady there in there. I have no idea why she's there, but that's the beauty. This photograph will surprise you. once I get the information here. I don't really need this, but okay. What you're looking at is the Bowie lofts now. Can you believe that? Now, on Sunday, April 19th, 1925, a tornado hit Wheeling. That's rare. In the Ohio Valley. The force was so prodigious that an eyewitness described it as a whirling funnel in which pieces of wood and even bricks were violently revolving. Another said that the telephone poles were struck down like matchsticks. It was upwards of $500,000 in damage. 9 people were injured, 5 automobiles demolished rather. Now, the building then was called the Storage Union Warehouse, located at Main, South, and 16th Street. This building was connected by railroads. You still can see the railroad tracks in the back. Okay? So it's hard to believe that building was saved and is used today, and I'm happy for it. Another disaster. This is the Warwick factory, China company. It's demolished. The highest flood recorded in Wheeling previously to 1907 was 40, am I doing okay now, kids? Everything okay? All right. Was 48.1 in 1832, all right? But in 1907, the floodwater reached 50.1. That was the highest. What you're looking at is the remains of the Warwick factory from the Great Flood in 1907. Not only did they have the misfortune of being in the flood's path, but when the rising water hit the hot kilns, it resulted in a powerful explosion. A great company did rebuild. They were in business from 1875 to 1951. Their pottery is still very, very popular. I want to read an article that I found in the Utica Herald that I believe captures perfectly this event. Fire and terrific gas explosions on the plant of the W.A. Warwick Paree Company added to the horror of the flood today. Following the explosion, the plant caught fire and virtually destroyed. The flames quickly spread to a number of tenant houses in the vicinity. The occupants, who had been driven to the upper level, were trapped. The flames attacking the roof of the house and eating down and staring down where the people 8 feet of rising water above the lower floors prevented their escape. The victims rushed to windows, praying and begging for help. All the street skips available were rushed to the scene, and most of the occupants of the tenants were rescued. Seven people, however, who were terror-stricken, I can understand that, at the approach of the flames leaped into the water and were drowned. It is believed that a number of others were swept away by the water. Up to 14 lives were lost. And I didn't even know that myself. Yeah, that's just fantastic. Now, what you're looking here in the background is our beautiful ex-city building that was torn down. To me, it was a treasure. Now, in front of it was the Paxton Monument. West Virginia became the only state of the Civil War. And on June 20th, 1863, the Northwestern companies of Virginia essentially succeeded for all the rest of the states, which joined the Confederacy. Now, this is the semi-centennial. That's why I told you that little information there. Monument was paid for by a James Paxton, 1878. Stood in front of the city building all those years. Now, in 1956, there was an attempt to move it. They literally destroyed it. Look at the top of that monument. That's fantastic. They should have got the people that moved the Civil War monument. They knew what they were doing. This is a real crime right here, that this piece of history is gone. Now, the top building to your left was the Stifel department store that was located at Main and 12th Street. It was decorated for the semi-centennial. On the right, really captures Lower Market Street. On the right-hand side is Custom House before it was restored back to the way it originally was. I love the lady walking across the street with the flowing dress, the banner. It's just a place to be then. It really captured what Wheeling was. Before the Rose Bowl parade, we had a floral parade. Nothing, Wheeling could do it all. Now, what you're looking at is the winner of that floral parade. It was owned by E.W. Stifel. You can see the buildings are decorated, the crowds. It's a great shot. When I looked at that, I looked the second time, I didn't realize it was like two people in front, 3 or 4 in the back, and then they put a tier on the top with two kids up there. Wow, no wonder they won. They're high rise. It's kind of neat. Okay. Now, believe it or not, in that time period in 1913, these people were pretty creative. You're looking at a float of Macaulay Sleep, except they forgot Macaulay. But it's a great, what they could do, this is incredible. I could give you the history of Macaulay Sleep, but I'll let you all look at it. All right, now, okay, let's see if I have that. What you're looking at here is a volunteer fire department from around circa, was not dated, they put 1902, but I don't know if that's true or not. The volunteer fire department of Fulton, very rare. Now when you look, the Wheeling Fire Department used horse-drawn pumps, like the one seen here. And if you look in the background, you can see House of Herman painted on the side of a building. I think to the right there, it says Herman Pretzel Saloon, which was located in Fulton. Because someone took time to write on the reverse, we know who these people were. They documented it. I'll give you a tip. If you have photographs of family, you better identify them, because in 10, 15, 20 years, nobody knows. Nobody knows. So I had my kids shoot all my pictures that way. All right. Now we're talking Wheeling Stogies. The Wheeling Stogie baseball team, pictured here in 1912, frequently played at the Wheeling Fairgrounds. That was their place. Games were often scheduled for Sunday to accommodate working class people. Baseball was extremely popular then. So around the turn of the 19th century, a local federation of churches opposed Sunday games. Remember the blue laws. And if you don't know what that was, that they banned all Sunday activity for religious reasons. You couldn't do anything on Sunday before. So you're a baseball team, you want to make money. So what did they do? In spite of the ban, they open up on Sunday and continue to play Sunday games. The churches sought an injunction in court. On June 3rd, 1900, Judge Melvin granted the injunction. They appealed and lost, and the fine was $2,000. It took 2 decades before baseball was ever held on a Sunday. Now, I can remember hearing that Babe Ruth came to Wheeling. I had to research that. And he did. He played in Wheeling. On May 15th, 1932, Ruth and the New York Yankees came to Wheeling for an exposition game at Fulton Park that attracted, listen to this, 10,000 people. Can you believe that? 10,000 people. High Valley fans. Why? The Yankees had promised to stop at Wheeling after completing a series in St. Louis. I didn't even realize this. Their competition was our own Wheeling Stogie. It was a Class C farm team of the Yankees. I just never had a connection that, Stogies was a farm team of the Yankees. And there was the legend himself, Babe Ruth. 10,000 people to see one person, Babe Ruth. Now, Babe hit 2 doubles. About the 8th inning, a massive rainstorm came and they canceled the game. Prior to the game being canceled, Stogies were able to pull off a triple play. That's pretty amazing there. All right. The Amazing Flying Machine, brand new. This is probably 1912. On the back of this postcard was written Lincoln Beachy. Didn't have Wheeling, didn't have anything. But I know that's Exposition Hall on the island in Wheeling at that time period. Just moving from that thing in the center of the postcard. Now you're looking at a flying machine. Think about it. Novelty, brand new, never seen one. How do they create business for the fair? That guy, taken off, flew across the high river, back and forth, and crowds anticipating seeing that, and they flocked to the island. I did not know it at the time, but the gentleman's name that did it was Lincoln Beachy. He was the original stunt pilot, famous. I think he performed before 7 million people in his career. He was the first guy that took an airplane like this one, flew upside down, did the loops, very daring. He died in a plane crash, misjudging water, and passed away. But extraordinary guy. Okay. Why is that picture in here? I like it. My book. No, I put it in there for a reason. It's just so, how should I say it, soothing and relaxing to me. You're looking at 2 women and a man overlooking the hills in Wheeling. Now, I wanted to talk about this just for a second. The ability This camera to create spontaneous views is why I like that picture. I like it also the dress, the long dress. You know, in that period, the woman never showed ankles. Dresses were long. And the hats. Ladies only wore these kind of hats, and men would not be seen in public without a hat. Changing time. Today it's show and tell. All right. Now, here you're looking at 3 views of the log cabin. And this one happens to be famous. The top card is reproduced, but it's still a real photo postcard from 1936 on Wheeling's centennial. The card reads, "The famous cabinet from where Betty Zane carried powder to Fort Henry, thereby bringing victory to the colonies. It's located between Market and Main Street, 22nd, 23rd location. We call it the Stones Alley." That's exactly where it was. Now, Betty's dash from the cabinet to Fort Henry was around 60 yards while carrying gunpowder in her apron. Okay, Zane Grey immortalized her in his book, Betty Zane. On November 29, 1899, they put a stone tablet there on Barker Street that's still there. Now, look at the 3 stages. The original, the second one, obviously I think they probably put a clapboard over it. And you look at it being torn down, and it's original. It's a shame that they didn't take that apart and reassemble it somewhere else. So this was taken down, let's see if I have it here, 1908. So if my facts are right, I don't see my fact. If the facts are right, this is from 1836 to 1908. Pretty amazing. Next one is a classic. You're looking at some pretty famous people here. On October 30th, 1964, at 12th Street, that building there is the old German bank. You're looking at President Nixon, ex-President Nixon, coming to Wheeling to generate votes for Barry Goldwater. Now, we all know Barry Goldwater lost in a landslide to Johnson. But what's neat about this, you have 2 ex-governors to his left. Unity, very important. On the far left is Cecil Underwood. Cecil Underwood. There we go. Paree, get that right. 1922-2008. Incidentally, he was the youngest governor of West Virginia at the age of 34. Now, in 1966, he ran again and won, which also made him the oldest governor in West Virginia ever. The gentleman in the middle, Glendale's own Art Schmorer. 1923-2015, elected as governor, 1968, 1972, 1984. A carpetbagger named Rockefeller came in and created a lot of votes for himself. Now, that's the flood of 1913. What you're looking at, obviously, is Wheeling Island. Completely covered in water. On the right-hand side would be the fairgrounds, and you could barely see them. This is before the roller coasters went on the island, and they were destroyed by the flood of 36. But I just thought that was a neat neat scene to put in there. By the way, floods are the #1 favorite photographic item by amateur photographers. You'll see more flood postcards than anything. Couple of views, one top one's downtown Wheeling, and the bottom one is again on the island. What's neat about the one on the top? Postcards preserve history. What was? All those buildings in the left-hand side are no longer here. So now you have an idea what was there, and you can see the custom house had bulge in the center with steps that they removed when they restored it to the original condition. Now this next photograph is probably my favorite photograph. Check where the water is. Check out the people standing on the roof. The old electric lights, fantastic. Now you're capturing a moment that's happening. Now these persons recorded this. It says here, the view was taken before the river was at its highest stage. Okay? So it rose 4 more feet after the photo. What you're viewing is Front Street. You're talking about the Cadillac houses on the island. You're talking the house of Charles Hancher, a jeweler, Mr. Jones, Mr. Comrie, Hughes, Mr. Welty's, et cetera, on the riverfront. Now, I told you that this flood was 51.1. Now this says 4 more feet it rose. Look at the water. Look what 4 more feet would put her, right on the 2nd floor. I don't know, I've never lived on the island, but God forbid if I saw water coming in my basement up to the 1st floor, near the 2nd, I'd be in East Wheeling again, I'll tell you. Okay, I'm gonna try to pick it up here because I'm talking too much. I hope I'm not boring you. I didn't hear anybody say no. Okay. All right. This next photo, again, no identification on this, but anybody from Wheeling would recognize instantly the suspension bridge and the steel bridge. Now you have a boat approaching the wharf. On it, it says the first steamboat on the Ohio River. Well, this can't be that boat. It wasn't. The original New Orleans was built by Robert Fulton and started the trip from Pittsburgh to New Orleans in 1811. During the original stopover in Wheeling, it allowed people to come on board. There was so much excitement created by the original steamboat. That's, I would want to see it. I'd be there. They charged 25 cents to go aboard, and they had massive people that did it. Now, this obviously is a centennial makeup of that boat, of steamboats. It came to Wheeling on November 3rd, 1911. And as it approaches the dock, they too allowed people on the boat. What do you think they charged? 25 cents. LaBelle Island. People do not know anything about this today. Before there was community swimming, bathing pools, or whatever you want to call it, people created this on Wheeling Island. And as you can see the activity there, that was the place to go for relaxation. People rode their bikes there, a lot of activity. To me, when I look at it, I can just see that people love it. I like the flag on the bottom. I counted it's 48 stars, in case you want to know. It's an amazing postcard. But around 1918 and 1919, higher water levels came with the rivers. An example would be the dam at Mackin. These higher water eliminated the beaches. So after 1919, this no longer existed. This is my last photograph, postcard rather. Did I hear someone say, "Thank you, God"? Oops, I don't know what I did. Where are you? It doesn't matter. It's 2 postcards. Go ahead, I'm sorry. Yep, I'm so talented. Now you know why I'm not a surgeon. There you go. Thank you. 3 chairs here. All right. This last postcard, people do not remember the river freezing over, and that's why I show this one. The top one is says Crocker and Booth, and they were steamboat agents. Mr. Crocker also was the added duty of the wharf master. This top one's from 1907. The background, you still can see the ice. The bottom one is Crocker with the boot. And my daughter bought this for me, so I better use it if I can figure it out. Right there is a train sticking out of the water. Train sticking out of the water, submerged. And you can see that the amount of ice being crushed to the shore. I want to thank you very much and appreciate having the opportunity. And now for the hustle. I'm just kidding. If anybody wants a book, $10 go back to the library to pay for the chips. Okay? Thank you so very much. Thank you.